Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Vittorio Puente, el amigo de la gente. Today, I'd like to talk to you about something that I had not originally prepared for. I had originally prepared for another topic, and I have scrapped that topic for today because I had an interview with a prospective patient, and she had told me about an incident that occurred to her that I think is really needed to be discussed again. And the problem is personal safety and teaching our older teens and our younger adults how to keep each other safe. What this particular patient had told me about, and she's given me permission to talk in generalities about her situation, is the situation where she had been drugged and raped and sexually assaulted. How the situation occurred began with a friend asking her to accompany her to a party. And while my patient had been working 2 jobs for weeks and had not been able to coordinate one day where both jobs she didn't have to go, she finally found a day where she had a day off. And her friend invited her to a party that day. And this friend, she considered a best friend. And she had considered a best friend who she had numerous times helped her whenever she was drunk or where she was in a problem and kept her safe. So naturally, my patient assumed that this particular best friend of hers is going to reciprocate. Well, it turned out where these two went to a party, and there were some people that they were acquaintances with, but many people they did not know since it was several towns over. Now, my patient is not particularly involved with drinking too much, and on this night she admits that she had a couple of drinks. But on this night she said that she lost memory after a couple of glasses of punch, and the next thing she remembered was waking up in a hospital, confused what she was doing there. It wasn't until her mother explained to her the enormity of the task she had that night to find her. Her mother said that she became concerned about her daughter when at midnight there was no return call, when she had called her a couple of times and there was no response. And this is unlike my patient. So her mother looked with her friends, and the best friend was at home. And she had said that no, she's probably somewhere there. And then the other best friend, who she knew longer than this particular friend who she went to the party with, had said that she'd been at home all night studying, which turned out to be the truth. Well, after a little more investigation by the mother, going to one house where she purportedly was, where the daughter purportedly was, she managed to find her way to the best friend's house, who had said, after a threat of police involvement, that her daughter was in this town several towns over. The mother, along with her son and a niece, went looking for her. Getting there, they see a trailer home with a bunch of guys that are outside drinking or passed out. They walked in looking for her, calling out for her with no response, when the brother found her lying in one of the bedrooms, unconscious. She was purple in the face, apparently had thrown up on herself a couple of times, and her clothes were not on her very well. Seems like she'd been scraped on the hips. Her shirt was wrinkled, and what they noticed also is that her eye was swollen and her lip was swollen. Well, they tried to revive her and was unable to, so they rushed her to the hospital. And it was in the hospital where my patient finally woke up, realizing that she had forgotten everything that happened. Well, after some blood work and In an examination, the doctor said that she had been drugged and she had been raped by at least one person, but likely a number of people. And during that sexual assault, she was hit. Now, my patient did not remember any of this, but she had felt dirty. She had felt violated. Despite not having the memory, her body was telling her this is not normal. The implications for this is that I have never come across in my years and years of doing counseling and psychotherapy of somebody who has not been affected by a sexual assault, by non-consensual sex. The trajectory of their life goes off, where they might have been college bound, had taken a couple of years off because of it, who had been in college, had dropped out, or had not made the grades as they had made the previous semester. It takes years of psychotherapy in order to try to figure out a way to work through this. The long-term consequence is this. There's so much involvement that they have to do in order to regain some normalcy to their life. Now, with my patient, although she did not remember much of it, it did affect her because she did not know now who might be out there who had sex with her. She does not know if it was one of her acquaintances or just somebody that was a friend with acquaintance. But what we do know is this, and this is the most important part and the reason for this presentation, is that, one, when going to a party, always go accompanied. This applies mostly for women. The reason is, whenever you're with a woman, there is a greater likelihood that she will support you if you get too intoxicated, and can notice if you do get intoxicated quickly, because it more than likely is uncharacteristic of you. In this case, however, her best friend did not pay attention to the situation. She did not pay attention to her friend. She thought about herself and needed to go home to be at work the next day, leaving my patient, her best friend, with a house full of young men. So beforehand, make it clear that no one leaves without each other. I've heard it in Mexico. Whoever you take to the party, you leave with the party. You leave with from the party. Number two, when you're going to a party, if the party is inhabited by mostly guys, then it's probably going to be uncomfortable. And there's a greater likelihood of some kind of inappropriate behavior. And keep in mind that your personal safety is in your hands, and to make sure that the person that you're with is going to recognize this and that you're both going to be on the same page. So the implications here also, the long-term implications is that we're trying to educate not only girls, but guys as well, men. So things to consider is that this is not the only issue for girls. This is an issue for guys. And guys, because there's a lot of guys in that party, if you see something like this happening, if you see somebody in the other room attempting to have sex, and there's clearly no consent, you hear somebody saying no, it is your moral duty, your ethical obligation to go in and stop this from happening. There's no reason this can happen if somebody could think about the long-term keep in consideration the length of therapy they're going to have to participate in to regain a sense of self. And if you're one of those people who participate in drugging women, and you know somebody who does, that is your moral responsibility. You are indirectly participating in the sexual assault of a young lady. Well, that's what I have to talk about today. This is Dr. Vittorio Puente, and I hope that this will give you pause and give you some inclination of what's going on out there, and to talk to your kids, boys and girls, about how to keep each other safe and how to keep everyone else safe. Thank you very much, and until next time, be safe.